I'm not going to lie. When Yugioh Zexal was announced, I didn't think much of it at first. I thought to myself, what the hell? Like, we went from this dark, edgy, serious, very adult-feeling story into this very bright, colorful, kiddish-looking one. Like, what have they done? Like, everything felt like it was abandoned, and I'm not gonna lie, the first 8 or 9 episodes really didn't impress me. It wasn't until the story really got going that I found myself unable to look away. I needed to keep watching. Like, every episode I wanted to know what was going to happen next. The story, the plot, everything started working, and I'm not going to sit here and say it wasn't long and slow and dragged out like every other shonen and every other Yu-Gi-Oh! But something about this one got to me and spoke to me in a way none of the others did. And that's what I'm here to talk about today, because I know a lot of people are trying to figure out where it really went wrong for Arc 5. And I feel like this is a good place to start to sort of see where it went right last time. Why many of these repeated plot points, like a brighter color palette or a younger protagonist, worked so much better in Zexal, but not in Arc 5. But let's just talk purely about Arc 5. Zexal. Now, Zexal actually, even though many people did admit it got better as it went, it still has a lot of hatred and dislike in the Yu-Gi-Oh community. Many people's dislike for it, it's mostly just 5Ds. I'm not gonna lie, I think it is mostly just 5Ds fanboys who can't get over it. But I do get there are legit criticisms. But one thing I think Zexal does excellently is the way it escalates everything. From episode 1 and up, I constantly felt like everything was building to something. Each of the little adventures Yuma and Astral go on at the beginning sort of get bigger in terms of, like, character and stakes and all that stuff. And I really like that, because when the series does start getting dark with the introduction of Kaito and his little brother, whose name is escaping me, and everything with Ryoga and Tron. Frickin' love Tron, and the kids with the names like numbers and stuff. Loved all that stuff. And a lot of the reason all that works is because we took that time at the beginning to be simple. We took that time to just focus on watching our characters kind of go through all these different little things, so that way when the darker turn does happen, it feels natural. It doesn't feel forced, or it doesn't feel like it's being thrown at you. Like, I remember with GX and that second half that everyone's like, oh, it's so amazing. I could never get into any of the Yubel stuff. It just felt so sudden and so random and so out of nowhere. And even 5Ds, I mean, I liked 5Ds at the time, and there is still a lot of great stuff in 5Ds. We'll talk about that one sooner or later. But, like, it just throws everything at you at the beginning, and it suffers for that, because when it does try to slow down, you can't get into it, and that's why I know a lot of people don't like the filler in 5Ds. In this one, there is that really good sense of escalation, so you can take a couple episodes off to just do fun stuff. You can take a lot of time building your plot and characters because we had the right build-up. I'm not going to sit here and say that it was perfect, because like any shonen, the fact that you need to extend your narrative over the course of several years hurts the overall way you tell the story. But what separates this from a lot of the other shonens was that I felt like it all just kind of flowed better. And a lot of that also has to do with our characters and the simplicity of the story therein. That story is, you got this kid named Yuma, and he meets and befriends a spirit named Astral, and they've got to go find the numbers to get Astral's memory back. There, that's it. It's so geniusly simplistic, but at the same time, it does create a forward-going narrative, and you can build upon it with all your other characters and your other story points and plot points, and that's what allowed that to flow. As for the characters, my opinion, the best all around. Here's the thing. Most of people's hatred towards the characters of Zexal comes to Yuma. Actually, I think it's all Yuma. Most people seem to like Kaito and Ryoga pretty good. People's complaint about Yuma is that he loses. It's that he's loud and he can seem obnoxious, and ultimately he loses. First up, he only loses a couple of times. Second, that's the point. Unlike Jaden or Yusei, Yuma is meant to feel more like a real kid. He gets up and he screws up at school like a real kid. He'd rather goof off instead of study like a real kid. He has to learn and grow like a real kid. Why? Because Yuma is meant to be a real kid. That means growing up, and that means he's going to fail. Ask yourself, when you think of your favorite characters, do you like them because they tried and you got along with them as people, or just because they're unbeatable badasses? This is my problem with someone like Yusei, for example, who never loses and doesn't have much of a personality. Yuma gets more character development in the first 15 minutes of episode 1 than any of the other 3 did in entire seasons worth of content. Again, there's good points to all the other Yu-Gi-Ohs, but this is why I kind of love this one. There's much more of a focus on character growth and turning card game stuff into being part of the narrative. Like, the thing is, in the other ones, it's just, we gotta play this card game to save the day. That's it. In Zale, every duel, you see how Yuma gets better and better. You see as his deck starts off with all these random monsters and how it all, streamlines and becomes one thing. I love that about his deck. It makes the whole thing feel like it's part of telling this story. And again, a lot of people are like, oh, Astral just wins them all of duels. No. Very specifically, if you watch Yuma as the series goes on and progresses, and he progresses, he handles most of the dueling on his own. Astral just gives him access to his rarer cards. Yuma won't even use them in duels where he's facing someone without rare cards of their own. It's such a big change in Arc 5 when you see Yuya, who's actually sad that he can't cheat and that he doesn't have an unfair advantage when compared to everyone else. Like, seeing all this executed in Yuma really works. How are the rest of the characters? Love Ryoga. He's such a complex and cool rival. He has this darkness to him, but he always stays relatable and understandable. Like, he's such a likable character, and you believe his story arc. Kaito, also fantastic. Like, this really dark, tragic anti-hero type character, and you just see how everyone builds and progresses, and Yuma is always caught in the middle as he really gets influenced by everyone around him. And that's what I like about the coming-of-age tale element to all this. Yuma is very much influenced by everyone, not just Astral, but by his relationship with Kaito, Ryoga, Kotori, all the duelists he meets and comes across. They all represent these different parts of him that are developing as the story goes through. They're not all just disposable or just coming in and out. I felt like everyone served a purpose. And that is what I really liked about the whole series, is that everyone was important and everyone led to our big narrative. And that big finale, oh god, this is where we get into spoilers, people. Love that whole final 6 or so episodes. Just fantastic writing. Yuma forced to confront Ryoga, who isn't just some mustache-twirling villain. No, he just wants to save his people, the Baryons, and bring it all back together. Oh god, just so perfect in every way, shape, or form. Like, and then the way the duel is the narrative. The duel is a representation of Yuma's growth as he's doing what many people accuse him of, just following Astral's orders. But then when he has to take his rival's life, the person who has influenced him arguably more than Astral, he can't do it. Like, he can't give up his humanity. Like, and it's done in this really deep, in-depth way, because like I always say when it comes to deep, in-depth stuff, like, so long as you do it in a way that someone who doesn't care doesn't have to notice. You could totally just find it as in, he just doesn't want to kill because he doesn't want to kill. There's so much being said in that one scene. I'll tell you this much, it's more than I ever got out of a Code Geass or a Madoka Magica or a Death Note. It is this very small little scene, and that's what I like. It doesn't shove anything down your throat. I felt like this was earned. I think it was Don Bluth who once said that a good ending is something that you feel like you work towards. When it comes to Yugioh Zexal, that working feels like slave labor. Like, everything from beginning to end was just such a great push, and that final duel between Yuma and Astral, where Yuma has to truly surpass him, and it is a true showing of how strong he has become as he creates a new monster that shows him forging his own future. Great! Like, loved it. And that is really why I love Zale above all else. Like I keep saying, it's because everything is for the narrative. Everything is for the story. If you're just looking for a one-dimensional, entertaining enough, sure, but really just kind of beat 'em up type, shonen-y type thing, 5Ds or GX is really where you want to go. If you're looking for something that is at least trying to have a deep meaning, a serious message, and trying to really deliver on really interesting characters and a really great story, and oh yeah, great animation all around, that's Zale. And that is why I love it. Look, if you love any of the other Yu-Gi-Ohs more than it, that's totally great. I could totally see that. But at the very least, I want people to understand that, no, Yu-Gi-Oh! Zale is not like 5Ds or GX or the original. I want people to understand that that is done intentionally because Yu-Gi-Oh! Zale wants to be its own thing. More than anything else, it is that. And that's why I love it and it's my favorite. And I hope you got something out of this. So tell me that in the comments section below. Do you really get into this series? Do you at least get where I'm coming from? What did you think of Zale? Which one is your favorite and why? Let me know that below. And as for this week's TCG question of the week, yeah, we're not giving up on that. Duelist Saga came out. What cards are you most excited for? Have you picked them up yet? Are you like me and for some random reason no store in your area seems to have it? And as always, click to like and click to subscribe, and we'll see where all this goes next time.